This is Jonathan with Phil. This is audio that I did recently with an interested franchisee. We just had a great series of questions, and I thought I'd share it with the world. So do enjoy. Plenty of information, and there's an excellent summary that goes along with this.
Hi, Jonathan. How's it going today?
It's going great, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking. And I do have to admit that resource library that your team sent over, super in detail, in depth. I was poking around a little bit last night and kind of diving into some of the content. I just wanted to get a general basis outside of what I already know about ProntoWash, just dive in a little bit deeper. So that's what I was doing. I still have quite a few items in that resource library that I do want to run through and make sure that I'm fully internalizing and digesting everything in there. So I will say for the time being, I feel like I have a general good idea, but I would like to dive into this a bit more, even further past this call, and possibly following this conversation, maybe we could set up another conversation where I can maybe weed out or pull out some more questions that I have for you from those resource items, if that would work.
So the biggest thing that happens is people tend to have somewhat of an understanding, but they don't necessarily know what their options are. So that I find a lot. So I can help you with that. One of the things that I want people to understand, the business model is highly flexible, which I love personally. I'm a huge proponent of mobile in general, just because you can, nowhere else on the planet can you take a business and double it year over year. If you have a physical, just one site, fixed location, you can't do that. It's next to impossible. Any business out there that's brick and mortar, you just can't do it. But mobile, you're limitless, really. And then it's relatively inexpensive when you look at the grand scheme of things to get started and then to be able to grow. And if you think about the whole concept of compounding your money, with mobile, you get mobile going, and then you start to get so busy that you'll have more demand than you can fulfill, and that's okay. And then from there, you start strategically planning growing your fleet. And that's all very manageable, very economical. So I love that whole side of this business. And if you see anything on me, I don't know if I'm past president of the International Detailing Association. I built a $300 million company in the same industry. If you find any articles or anything from me from the Detailing Association, I'm always the guy. I'm not the guy to tell you how to get your car the shiniest. I'm the guy to tell you how to make money in business. I teach people all day long how to make cars nice and clean and shiny. But at the end of the day, the people that do the best are the people that it's a business. Let's figure out how to make money at it and grow the business.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you brought that to the table right to begin with, because one of the items that I was diving into last night and noticed as well is some of the different verticals and some of the aspects of how to necessarily go about this, like the direct to consumer, B2B, and then B2B to C, I believe it was. So with those verticals in mind, and also too, just thinking about my current situation, what I'm ultimately trying to accomplish with getting into something like this is that, and also too, just to give you a little background, because I feel like I should have started with that to begin with. Jonathan, my background just in general, when it comes to work, I work remotely. So my intention here is to find something where I can run at the same time my full-time job as well as something like this as well. And the reason that ProntoWash kind of stood out is that mobile aspect. So I have actually since I was about 20, I've been getting in touch with just different guys in my neighborhood and in my town and things like that to come out and do mobile detailing for my own vehicle. Just because I've worked from home remotely, it just makes a lot of sense for me to just have someone come to my apartment complex or my house or whatever the case. So I've always been really fond of this idea. I see the potential in it and the opportunity in it. The reason I really like ProntoWash is that it has a very immersive kind of resource library as well as a support team, which I'm coming to realize as I'm diving through some of this content. But as I'm mentioning all of this information to you, Jonathan, I'm just curious maybe to brainstorm with you here on what that might look like in a situation like myself. So I can say that while I do work remotely, I do have several pockets in my day where I have the time to fit other things in. I also have my weekends totally open. And ultimately, the way that I was thinking is to go about this in a mobile first approach. I noticed that there was a little breakdown in one of the documents about the starting, I think it was pre-K is for the mobile territory, comes with 2 mobile units, that sort of thing. I was looking at that and entertaining that thought in my head. I'm just curious, in the past and maybe even currently as well, with other franchisees that worked with, has there ever been a situation where you've worked with someone that has attempted or tried to balance the full-time job with, in addition to having a mobile type of territory?
Yeah, me first. Yeah, I own several different companies. I feel that you can do that. Just truth be told, I put you on speakerphone. I'm actually driving with my Chief Operating Officer, Stan Weiss, and you talk about support and all that kind of stuff. Stan is your man. He runs. So we have company-owned stores, we have franchisees, and we have a handful of partnerships where I'm actually partnered with on different. I'm a partner on a couple masters, a couple area developer deals, and 7 different physical location type things. Stan is the guy that coordinates all of that. And he'll tell you the same thing I'm going to tell you, which is the secret is if you're going to do it that way, you got to find yourself a good boots on the ground daily guy or girl, doesn't matter. Women actually make better detailers. But you got to have somebody that's going to get in there in the morning, get the vehicles out and button them up at night type of thing. And as long as you have that, you can ebb and flow in the business as much as you want. And then the thing I talk about with my partners, and I would talk about with somebody like you, your goal at that level is really even more on the looking for the opportunities. Because a secret in this business is if you have the mobile fleet, it's like, how do I make that mobile? If that's your factory and you want to make widgets at your factory 24/7, how do you get that thing moving the most? And we call it average daily revenue per truck, okay? So ADRT is the metric we use, and it's like, how do I get it 400, 500, 600, 800? From a business owner perspective, and that's how you would classify yourself, not necessarily. There's people that come into this and they buy a franchise and they're out cleaning cars every day, and that's okay. But when you look at it from an owner's perspective like you are, you want to be looking at opportunities. Like, where are you based? I think you were looking at the Tampa market, were you not?
But I'm actually located you're right about the Tampa market, but my exact location is about 10-15 minutes south of Tampa in an area called Riverview.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar. The company originally, when it was in the U.S. and was based here, was based out of Tampa. I'm really familiar with Tampa. You got the whole Clearwater and the whole coast over there is like wide open, by the way. And I think Pete and all that stuff is like wide open, which is a great area to conquer. So, yeah, so if I'm you, I'm looking at how do I find opportunities to get my vehicles to places and better places even. You may go to a building every week on Tuesday and it might produce $400. If you only have a couple vehicles and there's one that can produce $800 on a Tuesday, maybe you need to juggle it around a little bit. And that's where your expertise will come in. That's where you'll be looking at the business. It's really about, I think the secret for guys like us is understanding the sales side of how to grow the business. And it's not by particularly selling a detail at a time. It's about getting buildings, apartment complexes, places where you can go and position that vehicle so it can do 10, 15, 20 cars.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just like you're going through our portal now, we have a very designed system. If you came on as a franchisee and we carved out your territory and at some point you're going to come to training, but one of the first things I do is I turn on what we refer to internally as the magic sales system. And we go and we get all the contact information for every property manager near you, every used car dealerships, right? If they're less than 150 cars on the lot, they don't have a detail service. CarMax has a detail center. But so there's that leg. We look at all the fleet providers in your area, even auto glass, people you can partner with. Anybody that touches a car that isn't cleaning it and in direct competition, they should be a partner and a referral partner at the very least. So a mechanic, valet services, parking decks, all of those are you'll start driving around now and you'll start seeing buildings and parking decks every day. And you're just gonna be like, oh my God, there are just a million places that we can go and clean cars and make money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that actually brings up a question for me on my side, Jonathan. So one thing that I noticed in some of the documentation that was available is like a mention of a sales team. I want to just make sure that I'm understanding what exactly the sales team then is like handling. I would assume that from my end, I would be the sales and that thing. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, you're going to be like, again, it's very similar to what you're going through right now as a franchisee with interest. We do the same thing with all of these different verticals. We put them down a path, we outbound communicate them, and we put them towards a portal specifically designed for them. The sales site's happening 24/7, regardless of you. And then it's a matter of, which really becomes an inbound marketing. So we turn it around and they start reaching out to us saying, hey, we want you, we want your service. And from that, it leads to buildings, locations, and opportunities, because once you break in there, it's a very intimate field of business people and they all know each other. And if you do good work, they all refer you. And once you build like that, we get referred out all the time. We're doing a huge thing in Houston right now, 24 buildings. And that was because we do good work at other locations for that same company, that same developer. So yeah, the sales team is again, we have an internal sales team. We always monitor and work with our franchisees on that, so you don't miss anything. But it's highly automated. It's like you and I were talking about, schedule a call type of thing. All of that is built into the same exact cycle that you put forward on the sales side as well. So it is highly manageable by even a single person. But ultimately, once you build your fleet and once you build that, you'll want to have somebody doing business development, unless you're going to carry that hat, which is not a bad place to put your.
Gotcha. Okay. And this question will be getting a little too in the weeds here, being the first conversation, but curious because I was seeing that, I noticed that like the sales cycle that you mentioned and that follow-up system goes into place and that sort of thing. There's an AI that's being used on like purchase side. So there's all communication. Is that coming from like an automation, or it's not like a real human, right? It's like an actual automated response based on what the response is that ProntoWash receives? Am I understanding that right?
It's highly automated. All the messaging for the most part is human crafted over years and years of building companies and knowing the messages. One of it is it's strategic based off of actions. We have triggers to the system. I can tell you right now, I can tell you every web page, each time you spend different places, your level of interest of that. We do the same thing when we're going after the sales cycle to help our franchisees. So the core of it, workflow, all those things are all built over years of proven formula. And now we are employing a lot more AI than we ever have into that process, especially on the direct communication front. Like a beginning, somebody even asked a question through a chatbot of ours. That initially is handled by AI until it gets to a point that they need to turn it over to somebody. So there's a lot of that being infused into it. I just did a call like 2 weeks ago where I talked about AI and places to use it, and I'm doing a follow-up on it later on today. But so it's interesting that you picked up on that. But yeah, ours is not AI based entirely today. It's got a little bit of that. It'll do more. One of the things that actually really cool that we're rolling out is review and comment responses. So if somebody say goes on Google My Business, our system will see it, and depending on what they rate, it'll actually communicate to them. And if they rated a 4 or 5, it'll thank them and give them some options to further promote it. If anything less than that, it'll address that. And then internally, it knows to communicate and take that person offline, help them get it fixed or anything like that. But that's completely monitoring all the digital communications out there. So you got Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, Yelp. And that actually has a good amount of AI, but it's actually just the AI is based around communicating to them based off of the tone and what they've already submitted. And that's pretty cool stuff. And that's just stuff to make your life easier. You don't have, if you did this all yourself, you'd have to craft every sales message that you ever are going to put out there. You'd have to figure out that flow and cycle to people down. You'd have to build all of the workflows and triggers. And then somebody puts a review, you got to go and find it and make sure you're on top of that and monitoring it. Our system does all that. And then every single market or franchisee has an isolated version of all of that same technology that you get to utilize.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming then, like, these ratings, in a sense, these rating asks are sent out after a service is completed then, correct?
Correct. Yep. Always.
Okay. Got it. So then in that case, I noticed there was a piece about the 48-hour window in terms of confirming that information from, say, a consumer side. Is that, so say that 48-hour window lapses, does the system then email them again? Do they follow up? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so there's a series. Again, we get more diverse these days than ever because and for us, it's one channel. We refer to it as omni-channel because I can do all of that communication inside of one system where before, or if you're on your own and you're building this, you have to go to each one of those channels to find it and communicate. So if somebody came to us originally and they came in through Facebook Messenger, we'll communicate to them from Facebook Messenger. But then we'll also, if they've had a service, now we have their email, we have their phone number. We'll use whatever preferable channel they desire. So if they started on Facebook Messenger, they'll stay there. If we lose communication with them, if there is a break in that communication and we're not getting a response, we'll try all the other channels that we can get to them until there's a point. Some people just don't want to be communicated with after a while. And then ultimately they fall into the kind of pile where the opportunity or the communication's becoming stale. And then at some point you just got to make a decision. And I've done everything I can to reach out to them, but ours even triggers like a manual call. Like my system will actually call me and tell me and try to connect me by phone to other people based on things like that. So if you had, say you're trying to get into an office building and you're at a point where, you know, you've done all of these things and now this person has hit that certain trigger that says, okay, they're really interested. Somebody needs to get a hold of them now type of thing. Literally the system will call you and say, would you like to be connected to this person? You press 1 and it will call them outbound for you and connect the two of you and record it and everything.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Perfect.
Yeah, there's a manual. There's a huge manual piece. I've been doing this a long time. Long before there was all this automation, there's a thing we call manumation, which is us doing all this in the background. And it seemed like it was automated for the consumer, but originally it all starts out very manual.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I did also want to check with you, Jonathan. I noticed that one of the, like, in terms of scaling, one of the, and I would assume this is like just a specific scenario, or it may relate to a specific scenario, but I think it might have been within the Magic Sales System portion of it, but there was like a little spiel about starting with targeting airports and then from there moving over to office buildings and then breaking down and filling gaps in with individual people. Is that for like a different type of setup than what we were talking about, having a single mobile unit? Would that be a different approach?
No, I think that the approach, obviously, you got to have an airport, and airports are the most difficult to get into. Thank the Lord we have inroads into those. But so you're referring to a section that talks about two different scenarios. One is usually a city center hub, or it's an airport hub based. If you're a single franchisee, your area is your area, and then what will happen is when we market into that, you'll end up creating a hub, right? You're going to start at one building and move to another. So it works in the same way. It's almost market-based. It's a little bit bigger in the sense when I look at like how I go into a city. So I'll use Atlanta for an example. Atlanta, we got Atlantic Station. Atlantic Station is the third largest parking structure in the United States, and it is smack dab in the middle of Atlanta. There's no better place to start than smack dab in the middle of a big-ass city that has a 6 million-plus market segment analysis that it gobbles up. So you grow from there. Then you literally do concentric circles as you go. And I just explained this. I had a whole training group in Atlanta yesterday, and I was explaining this to my guys. I go, guys, you go 2 blocks out and you draw a circle, and you work that. And once you've touched base, reached out, everybody's aware. Then you go 2 more blocks, 3 more blocks, and you just keep working out. And the same thing for you. Once you have your territory, once you're into a place where you're going, or it could be a target that you guys are setting up with on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's figure out where the customers are coming from, because we're going to have their information. Let's figure out what neighborhoods they're coming from, and let's start attacking. So it's really about aggregating data and figuring out strategy. But we help with a lot of that. That's coaching that Stan and I do all the time.
Gotcha. Okay, that definitely helps. I'm curious too as well. So when it comes to, and I'm curious with how other franchisees have been operating in terms of like when it comes to sales particularly, do more franchisees than not have an external sales team that they're utilizing as well, or not an external but an internal sales team that they maybe hired or are using? Or is this something that is like more so just easily leveraged as like an individual? I'm just trying to think balance-wise, sales versus actual work. Say, for example, if I were to have someone boots on the ground during the week and maybe I have to jump in or something like that, I would assume here and there might be days or times where I would have to hop in just to pick up on something. So just curious on that front.
Yeah, so the thing that I teach, it's the same strategy around having that kind of key person, supervisor, leader in your organization, if that person's role is get the vehicles out, get them at the locations that they need to be operating at for that day, make sure they have everything that they need, right? Products and supplies, checklists, all that stuff done. That same person ends up with a big gap in their day. And then at that point, once, so say they get the vehicles out, say you have 2 vehicles, right? You're at building A and you're at building B. If we're there, we're set up, we're starting to process appointments, that person needs to watch the flow of traffic for that day. They might need to adjust, right? They might need to jump in. They might need to move guy from B to A after 12 o'clock. But that same person, if they're responsible for B and A, they should be looking for C, D, and F while they're out there. So that same person is gonna be helping you on the sales side and identifying opportunities. And then you being probably the more professional of the communication side are the one that's gonna help them get it done. But that's still that you can do it if you have the right key people and they go through our training. And yeah, there's times I jump in. Right now I'm in Boca and we're launching a whole brand new facility and we're doing a whole bunch of things. When Stan and I are both here, granted I'm like on the phone and I'm doing other things and his guys are getting the physical work done, but we're here and we lay in, we put our 2 cents and that's what we're here for. And we'll take them out to dinner and we'll do some training with them later. But that's like the business. Like the business, you can't be afraid to jump in. I haven't jumped in and cleaned cars other than the fact that I think if they're moving too slow, I want to show them that a 50-year-old guy can whoop ass, and I can do it better and faster than probably 99% of them. But I can't do it all day, every day. I don't want to do it all day, every day.
Yeah, I looking at this business and primarily why I started looking at franchises like this or similar to this is I was trying to look at things that I know I've done in the past, car cleaning I've done in the past, oil changes, all that stuff. I used to work at a car shop. It was actually my first job when I was like 14 or 15, I can't remember now. But so the reason I was pulled or drawn to ProntoWash is because I saw that as something where, in the case, if I jump out on the floor, it's not something that is completely left field for me. So I appreciate you just sharing that as well, Jonathan.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the jumping in it's not that. It's the jumping in on my side is, God, just being a nice guy, appreciating your employees, appreciating the fact that my jumping in is I show up at the cooler and bring them waters and the towels that are in the freaking cooler and hand them out and say, guys, hey, take a break, talk to me, how's it going? That's where I jump in. That's what I mean. I have a lot of partners, a lot of owners out there. And again, I think we all handle it the same way. If we follow the same model, if you have to, again, I've had days where I've busted ass. We had to wash 50 cars in one day at one location. That's like a logistical challenge that's above some people's pay grades. And my guy wanted to do it one way, and I'm like, I can tell you right now, at 12 minutes a car, there ain't enough daylight. But if you do it this way, you can do it. So that's where I find the jumping in is. It's just we've been around. We have other industry experiences. I didn't start in the car wash business. I'm a car guy. I was 78 vet. I got a couple different Chargers. So I'm a car guy, but I didn't start. I started as a restaurant guy. So I spent 20 years in the restaurant business. And for me, I came into this when we built, I don't know if you know this, but I built a company called Spiffy. And we built it. My buddy had a car wash with 2 vehicles and asked me to come in and consult for him. Then he asked me, hey, do you think you can build it and build it big? And I said, yes. I go, I don't want to. But he's okay, come talk to me and this other guy that wants to put a couple $1 million in and then tell me what you want to do. And we ended up building a huge ass company. But it was just based off of knowledge and experience I had from other industries that apply wholeheartedly. Yeah, I find I jump in on the customer service side because I can speak with people. If I'm jumping in, they're working hard and they might be flustered and they're frustrated and the guy they've worked all day, they spent a lot of time on the vehicle and the guy comes out and starts pointing things out. And wrong or indifferent, it doesn't matter. It's our job at that point to still have that same calm, cool composure that we should have at 8 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon out after a 90-degree day. But that's where I jump in. It's really just supporting everybody and just let them know that it's all right. Like, we're here. We got this. Don't worry about it. Let's do the right thing for the consumer, and we will all be fine in the end. Don't worry.
Gotcha. So last question that I have related to this topic. So when I think of someone that could be the boots on the ground, like I can think of a good right-hand man, a couple of them that come to mind that would be interested in the opportunity, but I would be curious to know, does ProntoWash have an in-house like ATS application or like a some type of applicant tracking system for like recruiting employees, or if that's something that then would be just handled by like the franchisee instead?
Yeah, so it's funny. Our system can do it. Yeah, I use it personally inside of our same system that I was explaining to you. It can do all of that. We find that most folks are using Indeed and leveraging some of the technologies that are in Indeed. Once they get them to that point, they hire, they go into our learning management system and they're tracked in every step across their training. And again, we have everything that we teach is not just written, it's video, it's on demand. Some guys you'll find will go and crush the damn thing before they even show up for day one. Other ones, you're going to go back and, hey, you're 30% and you should be at 50%. What's going on? So that, I think internally, yeah, like recruiting it's a skill amongst itself. It's probably the most difficult factor in the business. If people ask me today, what I thought was the biggest challenge in the industry, it's staff and hiring. Yeah. But at the same time, I have never really had a staffing and hiring problem. And, we teach internally, we teach you a system to recruit and hire and the path and the process. You got to put them through some flaming hoops and all this kind of stuff because it's a different world. When I owned my restaurants and did all that, I started to see the trend where you talk to the guy on the phone, you like them, you set up an interview, and that interview, you talk to the guy on Monday, the interview set up for Friday, come Friday, you get ghosted. And like that stuff happens like at an alarming rate today. Like we would never do that. Like you would never not go to an interview nowadays because they can go on Indeed and they can hit apply. And it's like a speed thing. That's what I teach people nowadays is it's speed, guys. Like you have to get that applicant. I suggest to go immediately to video because you want to see the guy's six heads and all this. But we teach that. Like we literally have it's called the hiring success inside of our company that teaches you every step of that process.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really good to know that there's like that hiring kind of concept or like that information broken down in ProntoWash itself. I will say that I have some recruiting experience with mainly in the healthcare space with like caregivers, physical therapists, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're more professional.
But
some. These are pretty young guys and girls. Yeah. It's one of the things which I like about us compared to anybody else. They could go get a job washing cars all day long. I'll duct tape a vacuum in your hand and put you out in the wash lane all day. But I go, that's the opportunity you want, then you don't want to work with me because our guys tend to be better paid. They're operating essentially their own business, right? And it's as much energy and enthusiasm they have. They have a lot of responsibility, right? They have a vehicle, they have all your supplies, they're the face of the business. And then we bring them the appointments. We keep them busy. And the career path for them is come in as a technician. As a technician, you can become a master technician where you can do all these different levels of service. You get some experience on your belt. You can become a supervisor. From a supervisor, the goal would be to get them into, as things grow for you, to get them as a part of you, right? Okay, I'm going to pick up another piece of territory and you're going to have 5 trucks now and make the guy a partner. And whether it's he buys in or pays in or does and he earns in, like so I found a long time ago was this industry has no career path. So we've created a career path. And when you can demonstrate that to these kind of young, hungry folks, they gravitate towards it. They do make better money than they can anywhere else. Our guys make between, $20 and $30 an hour. That's pretty good. You can't go get that flipping burgers or working at it anywhere else like that. They're buying cars, getting married, building families, and that's a great place to be. We don't have a lot of turnover, actually. When you get good technicians, they don't leave you. So that's a really good thing that people don't understand because it's not a car wash. A car wash, I swear, you go to a car wash this week, go back in a month, and it's completely different people from the manager on down. Where I don't have that experience. I don't have that experience on mobile because these people, you're not going to have that many assets to start with. So you're going to groom them. They get a lot of education that they wouldn't get anywhere else, just in how to act in business and how to be professional and how to stay on top of things. And I think the guys that I find that I like the best, one of my favorite guys is out in Houston. I can't wait. We're going out there next week. He's like a 20-year-old kid who's just got a great head on his shoulders. He's a hunter, fisherman, all these kinds of things. Not afraid to get up at any hour and do stuff. And that's what you look for. Like you're going to seek out people. Like you'll become a master of identifying the traits that you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that piece about the career path. Quite literally, I feel like I myself am trying to identify a career path for myself, and that's why I'm here on today's conversation. I do completely agree with you with having like that some type of structured career path in general. Definitely helpful to keep in mind. I'm curious though, like with that career path and in ProntoWash's approach with kind of that situation with kind of an employee moving up in that career path itself, is it the standard to have the employee just get a fixed hourly, or is it salary?
I don't know. We have it. It exists. I don't believe it. I hate it. It's my least favorite model. I like a commission-based model. Two reasons. One is you can lock your payroll essentially becomes fixed at a percentage, which is ideal. Hourly and hourly mentality, right? The people that want that are not the best for you because they don't have ambition. They just want to know that they're going to go and work 8 hours and make $80. Where my guys, they want to get that extra service at the end of the day because it's going to kick them up. We have a bonus program too. So if they do over 500, they do over 600, they get extra points. So when that last minute of the afternoon, you got to deal with Enterprise, and Enterprise has 3 cars they need done. You don't want your guy with an hourly mentality then wanting to go home and curl up with his girlfriend. You want the kid who wants to go and make money so he can buy new rims and have a weekend out with all of his girlfriends.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Okay. That's good to keep in mind as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So commission-based is better, but in some, especially in the beginning, there's usually a mix. Like usually if you don't have business yet, you got to do something. You got to guarantee them. But that's one of the ways we actually get good people early on. We'll tell them like, hey, it's a question we ask. What do you need to make to live as you need or wish? And then once they respond to that, we know where they want to land. And then we'll set them up with a base and then a commission. And then we'll even guarantee it in some cases. And after 90 days, they're not hitting their marks. They're probably not the right person.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. So, Jonathan, I definitely still have, I'm sure I still will have questions. Those are the big questions that I had prepared for
you. You have my number, right? So this number comes through our system, but it comes to me directly. You can ask questions. You're sitting there reading this thing at 11 o'clock at night, and you're like, oh my God, throw it out there. I may respond immediately. I work all kinds of wacky hours, and I travel all over the world. Or it may take me a few hours to get back to you, but throw the questions out there. Keep the dialogue going. And if you think of things, get a list, schedule another call. The thing about me, which is odd, is I'm about helping the whole industry, not just ProntoWash. So for me, as a past president of the IDA and all, it's really I can help anybody do well in the industry as a whole. I feel it works for everybody. I don't look at everybody like competition. There's so much business out there and nobody knows how to do it the way that I do it. So I just want people to succeed. My franchisees have an open door. You, as you're coming in and trying to identify the opportunity for yourself, ask the questions. I'll invite you to a group. I have a business group that, I run a weekly call with a buddy of mine named Jimmy. It's the Jimmy and Johnny show. And you can tune into that stuff and see and hear more of it. We produce a lot of content.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that you have that open door policy then. I'll definitely make sure to
don't hesitate. And I'll be over in your neck of the woods here probably in the next 30 days. So if I'm down over there, let's go grab a cup of coffee or beer or something and get to know each other. It's always a good way to get the process going.
Yeah, definitely. Jonathan, that sounds good. In that case, I'll get to jumping back into that content. More than likely, I'm thinking about early next week is probably when I'll be able to reach out and drop a couple questions for you, just as a heads up more than anything.
So one of the things I'll tell you, the thing you want to identify is I tell everybody this, especially if you're leaning towards mobile, you want to figure out cash-wise how much area, zip codes, whatever you can gobble up, because you're right, they're not making any more land, and you don't want to be in a situation in the future where, I bought one zip code or this one area. I knew that the one next to it was going to be good. I didn't get it. So I really do recommend to people, look at the area that you want to grow into. And I have zip code mapping tools that give you demographics. All that stuff's available to you. It's all in there. So you can go, you can click on the map. If you want to talk about your area that you're trying to figure out and develop, what that might cost, build it out, take a picture of the map, and you can run the numbers on it and see what the numbers look like, and we can talk about it. Again, I'm more about it having the right franchisees and partners than, just having a whole bunch of franchisees and partners. I'd rather have somebody that's looking at this long-term and wants to grow and better themselves and the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, so I know that I'm currently in the Tampa territory as a whole. Is there availability, and this might be maybe a question that I can follow up on later. But is there like a territory available in the Bradenton, Sarasota area at all?
Yeah, I don't have anybody over in Sarasota. It's funny, Stan was just in Sarasota, and he has a buddy there that wants to do something with us, but we haven't done anything formal over there yet.
I gotcha. Okay, just good to know.
Yeah. No, you're in a good area. I think anywhere on that side of the state, I think you're in pretty good shape. Obviously, we have franchises in certain places, but not a lot of people. Like, I only developed the area model 12 to 18 months ago. People have not been able to gobble up a lot of area yet, so I think you're in a good spot there.
Okay,
so look at where you want to go, and let's talk about it. Just draw a loop around it and figure out what that looks like, and I can give you strategies on what I think you should do.
Okay, cool. Sounds good, Jonathan.
Awesome, man. Great to look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it as well. I'll talk to you later then in that case.
Okay, thank you, brother. Have a good day.